My name is Stephanie Bennett, 32, and until 6 months ago I thought I had the perfect marriage. That was before my husband Ryan decided to move my stepsister Madison into our home. What followed was a masterclass in betrayal that I never saw coming. The moment I caught them together in my own bed shattered my world completely, but while they thought they'd broken me, they had no idea what I was capable of. Before I dive into how my picture-perfect life shattered overnight, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, hit that subscribe button because trust me, this story of revenge will be worth it. Looking back, it's almost laughable how perfect everything seemed. I'd built my life from the ground up, working my way through college with 2 jobs before landing an entry-level position at a boutique real estate firm. By 30, I was their top-selling agent 3 years running, specializing in luxury properties in our city's most exclusive neighborhoods. I had the career, the friends, the lifestyle, but something was still missing. Then came Ryan. We met at a charity auction for children's cancer research. I was there representing my firm, and he was attending with his investment banking colleagues. Ryan wasn't like the other finance guys I'd met. There was a genuineness about him that caught me off guard. Tall with dark hair and the kind of smile that made you feel like you were the only person in a crowded room. When he bid an outrageous amount on a weekend getaway package I'd been eyeing, only to gift it to me after winning, I was simultaneously annoyed and charmed. "You could have just asked for my number," I told him when he approached me after. "Would you have given it to me?" he asked, his confidence never wavering. "Probably not," I admitted. "But now I have to, since we apparently have a weekend in Napa to plan." That first date turned into a whirlwind romance. 7 years ago it felt like the universe had finally rewarded my hard work with the perfect partner. Ryan was successful in his own right, ambitious but kind, and most importantly, he seemed to genuinely support my career rather than feel threatened by it. We balanced each other perfectly. My practical nature complemented his spontaneity, and his relaxed attitude helped me learn to enjoy life outside of work. Our wedding 5 years ago was everything I'd dreamed of, intimate but elegant, at a vineyard overlooking the valley. When Ryan recited his vows, promising to always be honest and faithful, I truly believed we were different from other couples who ended up in divorce. We had something special built on a foundation of trust and communication, or so I thought. We bought our dream home in Maple Hills, an exclusive neighborhood with tree-lined streets and restored Victorians. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a gourmet kitchen where Ryan would cook elaborate Sunday dinners, and my personal sanctuary, a home office with bay windows overlooking our meticulously landscaped backyard. It was perfect for the family we planned to start soon, once we'd checked a few more destinations off our travel bucket list. But then there was Madison, my stepsister. My father remarried when I was 15, and Madison was my new stepmother's 11-year-old daughter. While I made efforts to welcome her into the family, we never quite connected. By the time I left for college, it was clear we were fundamentally different people. Where I was driven and focused, Madison floated through life expecting others to solve her problems. Our parents didn't help the situation, constantly making excuses for Madison's behavior while holding me to a much higher standard. "You're just more naturally responsible, Stephanie," my father would say, as if that justified the double standard. Madison dropped out of community college after 1 semester, claiming it wasn't the right environment for her creative spirit. What followed was a string of retail jobs she'd quit when managers didn't appreciate her, relationships with questionable men who didn't understand her, an apartment she couldn't afford on her sporadic income. Despite our differences, I tried to maintain a relationship with Madison. I helped her with security deposits, job referrals, and even paid for a vocational course she never completed. Each time she'd swear this was the turning point, only to be calling for more help within months. After lending her $2,000 that she never repaid or acknowledged, I finally established firmer boundaries, much to my parents' disappointment. "She's family, Stephanie," my father would remind me, conveniently forgetting that family supposedly worked both ways. The tension between us made family gatherings uncomfortable. Last Thanksgiving, Madison showed up 3 hours late with a new boyfriend who helped himself to my father's expensive scotch. When I gently suggested they could have called to let us know they were delayed, Madison accused me of always trying to make her look bad. Ryan, ever the peacemaker, smoothed things over, but I noticed how intently Madison watched him throughout the evening. So when Madison called 4 months ago, sobbing about being evicted and having nowhere to go, I was naturally hesitant. What surprised me was Ryan's reaction. "She's your sister, Steph," he said that night as we got ready for bed. "We have plenty of space, and it would just be temporary until she gets back on her feet." Stepsister, I corrected, and temporary with Madison could mean anything. Remember when she temporarily borrowed my car in college and returned it 3 months later with a dent she never explained? Ryan sat beside me on our bed, taking my hands in his. People change. Everyone deserves a second chance, especially family. What if we set clear expectations from the beginning, a month, maybe 2 at most, while she finds a new place and job? I was surprised by his advocacy. Ryan had always been cordial with Madison but never particularly close. Still, his compassion was one of the things I loved about him, even when it occasionally clouded his judgment. I don't know, I hesitated. Our home is my safe space. Having Madison here would change that. It's temporary, he assured me, kissing my forehead. And who knows, maybe this could be a fresh start for your relationship with her. Against my better judgment, I agreed. After all, I reasoned, I was a successful adult now, not the insecure teenager who had competed with Madison for my father's attention. I could handle a few weeks of disruption if it meant helping family in crisis. That decision would prove to be the biggest mistake of my life. Madison arrived on a Tuesday with enough luggage for a 6-month European tour, not the brief stay we had discussed. Ryan helped carry in her 4 massive suitcases, 2 duffel bags, and various boxes while I prepared the guest room. Wow, this place is even more gorgeous than your Instagram makes it look. Madison gushed, her eyes scanning every corner of our home. You guys have really made it, huh? There was something in her tone, admiration tinged with envy, that immediately put me on edge. At 28, Madison still had the same long blonde hair and carefully curated bohemian style that screamed I'm the fun one that she'd cultivated in high school. Next to her, in my tailored work clothes and practical bob, I suddenly felt like the uptight stepsister from a fairy tale. That first dinner together was uncomfortable. I'd made my signature roast chicken with herbs from our garden, a meal Ryan always praised. Madison picked at her food while regaling us with stories of her horrible landlord who totally illegally evicted her, the toxic workplace she'd recently left, and the emotionally unavailable boyfriend who'd broken up with her. Men can be such jerks, she said, touching Ryan's arm. Present company excluded, of course. Stephanie really lucked out with you. Ryan smiled, seemingly flattered. I'm the lucky one, he replied, but didn't move away from her touch. I dismissed the twinge of unease I felt. Madison had always been physically affectionate with everyone. It didn't mean anything, but as the evening progressed, I couldn't help noticing how she laughed too loudly at Ryan's jokes, how she casually mentioned interests I never knew they shared, how her eyes lingered on him when she thought I wasn't looking. Within a week, Madison had transformed from grateful guest to fixture in our home. She'd taken over our kitchen with her specialized organic foods and kombucha brewing experiments. Our guest bathroom was now cluttered with her extensive collection of beauty products. She'd even rearranged the living room furniture to improve the energy flow while I was at work. I just want to contribute, she explained when I came home to find my carefully curated space transformed. Since I can't help financially right now, I thought I'd make improvements around the house. I bit my tongue, reminding myself this was temporary, but when I tried to discuss it with Ryan later that night, his response surprised me. She's just trying to feel useful, Steph. Is it really such a big deal if the couch is in a different spot? It wasn't just the couch. And Ryan knew it. It was the principle, the way Madison was gradually inserting herself into every aspect of our lives. She was suddenly joining us for our standing Friday night dinner reservation. She was watching our favorite shows with us, sitting between us on the couch. She was asking Ryan for help with her resume and job applications, tasks that somehow always required hours of close collaboration in our home office. The job search that was supposedly Madison's top priority seemed to progress at a glacial pace. The market is just so competitive right now, she'd sigh dramatically whenever I inquired about her progress. Meanwhile, Ryan began working late more frequently, claiming a new project demanded extra hours. When he was home, he was different, distracted, checking his phone constantly, irritable when I asked questions about his day. The easy communication that had always been our strength began to falter. Small disagreements escalated into arguments that ended with Ryan sleeping in the guest room, which had somehow become Madison's room despite my insistence that her stay was temporary. 3 weeks into Madison's stay, I tried again to discuss the situation with Ryan. I thought we agreed on a timeline, I said carefully as we got ready for bed. It's been almost a month, and Madison doesn't seem any closer to moving out. Ryan's expression hardened. She's been on several interviews. These things take time, Stephanie. What do you want her to do, live on the street? Of course not, I replied, taken aback by his defensiveness. But maybe we could help her find a room to rent, or a short-term sublet while she continues her search. Our home isn't really set up for long-term guests. She's not a guest, she's family, Ryan snapped, I thought you of all people would understand helping someone when they're down." The accusation stung. "That's not fair. I've helped Madison countless times, but there's a difference between helping and enabling, and frankly I'm surprised you're being so insistent about this. You've never been this invested in my family matters before." Ryan's face softened, and he pulled me into an embrace that felt somehow performative. "I just want to support you by supporting the people you care about. Madison's going through a rough patch, and we have the means to help. Isn't that what marriage is about? Being a team?" I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him, so I nodded and forced a smile, ignoring the growing knot in my stomach. The following week, my friend Jessica from work noticed my distraction during our lunch break. "You've been off your game lately," she observed. "Everything okay at home?" I hesitated before confiding in her about Madison's extended stay and the tension it was creating. Jessica listened carefully, her expression growing increasingly concerned. "And you say your husband is the one insisting she stay?" she asked, her tone careful. "Ryan's always been compassionate," I defended, though my conviction felt hollow even to my own ears. Jessica reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Steph, I don't want to alarm you, but something doesn't feel right about this. Has Madison always been interested in your husband?" "What?" "No," I responded automatically, but then paused, remembering Madison's lingering glances at family gatherings, her pointed questions about Ryan's work and interests, the way she'd always managed to position herself next to him in family photos. "I mean, she's always been friendly with him, but trust your instincts," Jessica advised. "They're usually right." That night I returned home early from a client meeting to find Madison wearing one of my silk blouses one Ryan had given me for our anniversary. She was in the kitchen preparing what appeared to be an elaborate dinner. "Oh, you're home early," she said, quickly wiping her hands on a towel. I spilled coffee on my shirt and borrowed this. Hope you don't mind." Before I could respond, I noticed the dining room table set for two with candles and wine glasses. "Are you expecting company?" I asked, my mouth suddenly dry. "Ryan texted that you had client meetings all evening," she replied, not quite meeting my eyes. "I thought I'd surprise him with dinner since he's been working so hard. You're welcome to join us now that you're home." The phrasing, like I was the intruder in my own home, left me speechless. I declined the invitation and retreated to our bedroom, where I found several of my expensive face creams and perfumes on Madison's side of the bathroom counter, clearly used. The boundaries in my home were disappearing, and with them my sense of security. That night, Ryan and I had our first major fight about Madison's stay. When I mentioned the dinner setup and my missing belongings, he accused me of overreacting and being paranoid. "She was trying to do something nice," he insisted. "And she probably just wanted to try your skincare. Women share that stuff all the time, don't they?" "Not without asking," I countered. "And why would she assume I wouldn't be home for dinner with my husband? I told her you had meetings. I was trying to be considerate and not have her wait for us to eat." Ryan's voice rose. "Why are you creating drama where there isn't any?" The conversation ended with Ryan storming out, claiming he needed air. He didn't return until after midnight, smelling faintly of alcohol and refusing to continue our discussion. As I lay awake beside him, I couldn't shake the feeling that the ground beneath our marriage was shifting, and I was the only one trying to keep my balance. After our fight, I decided to start documenting the strange behaviors I was noticing. Call it paranoia or intuition, but something told me I needed evidence beyond my own recollections. I created a private note on my phone, time-stamping incidents that felt off. April 15th, Ryan's phone buzzing repeatedly with texts during dinner. When I glanced over, he quickly turned it face down. Later checked notification preview and can't wait for tomorrow when she's. April 17th, came home early to find Madison and Ryan laughing in kitchen. Both went quiet when I entered. Madison said we were just talking about you but wouldn't elaborate. April 20th, found Madison using my laptop. She claimed she needed to check email but closed browser quickly when I approached. April 22nd, Ryan received package he wouldn't open in front of me. Later found receipt for expensive cologne he doesn't normally wear. My list grew longer by the day, each entry making it harder to dismiss my concerns as mere insecurity. The dynamic in our home had fundamentally changed. Ryan and Madison had developed inside jokes I wasn't part of. They had begun working out together in our home gym. Madison had somehow learned all of Ryan's preferences, how he liked his coffee, which craft beer he preferred, even which jazz musicians he enjoyed listening to while cooking. One evening I found a text on Ryan's phone while he was in the shower. The preview showed Madison's name and the words, "She doesn't appreciate you like I do." My hands shook as I debated reading the full exchange, but Ryan emerged from the bathroom before I could decide. That night I confronted him directly. Is there something going on between you and Madison? Ryan's expression shifted from surprise to outrage so quickly it felt rehearsed. Are you serious right now? She's your sister. Stepsister, I corrected automatically. And you didn't answer my question. I can't believe you would even think that, he said, pacing our bedroom. This is insane, Stephanie. You've been hostile toward Madison since she arrived, and now you're accusing me of what, having an affair with her? Under our roof? What kind of person do you think I am? His indignation was convincing, but something felt off. He was answering my question with questions of his own, making me feel irrational for even asking. I saw a text from her, I admitted, about how she appreciates you more than I do. Ryan's face flushed. You're checking my phone now? Jesus, Stephanie. She was thanking me for helping with her job applications when you were too busy. She feels like you've been distant and judgmental, which frankly you have been. I felt a strange dissociation, like I was watching our conversation from outside my body. Was I the problem here? Had my reservations about Madison created this tension? The self-doubt was overwhelming. Later that week, Madison approached me with seemingly genuine concern. Ryan mentioned you're feeling a bit uncomfortable with me being here, she said, her expression the perfect blend of hurt and understanding. I never meant to intrude. You've both been so generous, and the last thing I want is to cause problems between you. Her performance was flawless, the slight wobble in her voice, the earnest gaze. Had I not caught her smirking at Ryan behind my back moments earlier, I might have believed her. I appreciate that, I replied, matching her false sincerity. I think we all just need our space sometimes. Of course, she agreed readily. Actually, I have a promising interview next week. If it goes well, I should be able to get my own place soon. But the interview mysteriously fell through, as did the next one. Madison's stay extended from weeks into months, with no end in sight. Meanwhile, Ryan announced he needed to attend a weekend conference in Chicago, the first time he'd traveled for work in over a year. It's a great opportunity to network, he explained, packing far more carefully than he ever had for business trips before. New clothes, the new cologne, even new underwear. Something inside me snapped. The night before his trip, I ordered a small security camera online with same-day delivery. While Ryan and Madison were both out the following day, he supposedly at the airport, she at a coffee shop working on applications. I installed the discreet device on our bookshelf, angled toward the living room and kitchen. It connected directly to my phone, allowing me to view the footage remotely. Going on that business trip was a mistake, I wrote in my evidence log, because while he's supposedly networking in Chicago, I'll be watching exactly what happens when they think I'm not around. I told them both I had an emergency showing with an important client the next evening and would be home late. In reality, I checked into a hotel 5 miles from our house, ordered room service, and prepared for what I might witness. For several hours, nothing unusual happened. Madison watched TV, made a sandwich, took a shower. I was beginning to feel foolish for my suspicions when my phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. Boring conference. Miss you. Hotel room feels empty without you. Almost simultaneously, the security footage showed our front door opening. Ryan entered carrying an overnight bag, the same one he'd supposedly taken to Chicago. Madison's face lit up as she rushed to greet him, throwing her arms around his neck in a decidedly unsisterly embrace. My stomach clenched as I watched them move to the kitchen, where Madison had prepared dinner using my favorite serving dishes. I noted absently, as if that detail mattered now. They opened an expensive bottle of wine Ryan and I had been saving for our anniversary, toasting to something I couldn't hear. What followed was an intimate dinner that made it abundantly clear their relationship had progressed far beyond friendship. The way Ryan tucked Madison's hair behind her ear, the way she fed him bites from her fork, the lingering touches. It was like watching actors in a romantic film, except this was my husband and my stepsister in my home. When Ryan leaned across the table to kiss her, I almost threw my phone across the hotel room, but some detached part of me knew I needed to keep watching, to understand the full extent of their betrayal. After dinner, they moved to the living room couch, the same couch where Ryan and I had spent countless evenings together. As their kissing intensified and Madison began unbuttoning Ryan's shirt, I finally turned off the feed. There was a limit to what I could stomach. I sat in the darkened hotel room, my mind racing yet strangely calm. The suspicions that had been dismissed as paranoia were confirmed in the most painful way possible. But instead of collapsing in grief, I felt a cold, clarifying anger taking hold. I checked out of the hotel and drove home, timing my arrival for maximum impact. The house was quiet when I entered, but a trail of discarded clothing led from the living room toward our bedroom, our marital bedroom. That was the final insult. They could have chosen the guest room, Madison's room, anywhere else. but they had chosen to defile the one space that should have remained sacred. I followed the trail, each step fueling my rage, when I pushed open the bedroom door to find them tangled in my sheets. Their expressions of shock and horror would have been comical under different circumstances. "Stephanie," Ryan scrambled to cover himself. "What are you? I thought you had a client." "Clearly," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "And I thought you were in Chicago, so I guess we're both surprised." Madison made no attempt to cover herself, watching the scene unfold with an almost fascinated expression. "Steph, we can explain how long." I cut her off. They exchanged glances, a silent communication that told me everything about how comfortable they'd become in their deception. "It just happened," Ryan attempted. "We never planned." Madison's laugh interrupted him. "Are you serious right now? Don't lie to her on top of everything else." She turned to me, a strange pride in her expression. 3 months since, about a week after I moved in, while you were helping her get back on her feet," I said to Ryan, the pieces clicking into place. "While I was worried about being a supportive wife and sister, 3 months of lying to my face every single day." "I was going to tell you," Ryan insisted, reaching for his discarded pants. "I've been trying to find the right time." "The right time?" My laugh sounded foreign to my own ears. "Before or after you helped her find a new place? Were you planning to keep her as your little secret? Or was the plan to leave me all along?" Neither answered, which was answer enough. "Get out," I said quietly, "both of you." "Now, Stephanie, be reasonable," Ryan pleaded. "It's the middle of the night. Where are we supposed to go?" "Not my problem." I opened our closet, pulled out their clothes, and began throwing them into the hallway. "You have 5 minutes to get dressed and get out, or I'm calling the police and reporting trespassers in my home." Madison finally seemed to grasp the gravity of the situation. Gathering the sheet around herself, "This is ridiculous. We need to talk about this like adults." 3 months, I repeated. "You had 3 months to talk like adults. Time's up." 4 minutes now. They dressed hurriedly, Ryan continuing to plead while Madison remained surprisingly silent. I followed them downstairs, watching as they gathered essentials in a daze. "Stephanie, please." Ryan tried one last time at the door. "Let me come back tomorrow when we've all calmed down. We can figure this out." I looked at my husband of 5 years, the man I'd built my life around, and felt nothing but disgust. "There's nothing to figure out. You've made your choice. Now live with it." As I closed the door on their stunned faces, the weight of what had happened finally hit me. I systematically moved through our home, gathering photos of Ryan and me, removing them from frames and tearing them to pieces. I found a half-empty bottle of Madison's perfume and poured it down the drain. I stripped the bed they'd defiled and dragged the mattress into the backyard, not caring what the neighbors might think. When there was nothing left to destroy, I collapsed on the living room floor and finally allowed myself to break down. The sobs that tore through me were primal, the physical manifestation of my shattered world. I called Jessica, barely coherent as I tried to explain what had happened. "I'm coming over," she said immediately. "Don't do anything else until I get there." As I waited for my friend, staring at the ruins of my perfect life, a strange calm began to replace my despair. Ryan and Madison thought they'd won. They thought they'd broken me beyond repair. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The morning after discovering Ryan and Madison together was surreal. I'd barely slept, having spent hours talking with Jessica, who stayed overnight to ensure I wasn't alone. By the time she left for work the next morning, my initial shock had hardened into resolve. "Are you sure you don't want me to take a personal day and stay with you?" Jessica asked, concern evident in her tired eyes. "I need to handle this myself," I assured her, "but thank you for being here last night. I don't know what I would have done without you." "Call me if either of them shows up," she insisted, "and remember, you've done nothing wrong here. They're the ones who should be ashamed, not you." I nodded, though shame was far from what I was feeling. As I showered and dressed for the day in one of my most expensive business suits, armor in its way, I mentally replayed the elaborate setup that had led to my discovery. The fake business trip had been meticulously planned. I'd told both Ryan and Madison that I had an important client who was flying in specifically to see exclusive properties in the 8-figure range. "It's potentially my biggest commission ever," I'd explained over dinner the night before, "but it means I'll be tied up all evening showing properties and having dinner with them. Don't wait up." They'd both offered the expected supportive responses, though I now recognized the relief in their expressions. They'd been given the perfect opportunity for an evening alone together, and they'd seized it without hesitation. What they hadn't known was that I'd checked into the Westlake Hotel just 5 miles from our home, setting up my laptop and phone to monitor the security camera feed I'd installed. The hotel room had felt sterile and impersonal, a fitting environment to watch my marriage implode in real time. The footage had been worse than I'd imagined. After Ryan arrived home supposedly from the airport but clearly having never left town, their intimate dinner had been just the beginning. They'd touched constantly, laughing and talking with the easy familiarity of a long-established couple. Madison had worn a dress I recognized as one I'd discarded during spring cleaning, altered to fit her slimmer frame. "I've been dreaming about this all day," Ryan had said, his voice just barely picked up by the camera's microphone as he kissed her neck, "having you all to myself without looking over our shoulders." "She makes it so easy," Madison had replied with a laugh, so trusting, so clueless. That had been the moment I decided to return home and confront them. The clinical detachment I'd maintained while watching the footage had shattered at Madison's words. I wasn't just being betrayed, I was being mocked for my trust. Now in the harsh light of morning, I surveyed our home with new eyes. Every corner held memories now tainted by their deception. How many times had they laughed at me behind my back? How many times had Ryan kissed me after kissing her? As if summoned by my thoughts, my phone buzzed with Ryan's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to his message. "Stephanie, please call me back. What happened last night? It's not what you think. I mean it is, but there's more to it. I never meant to hurt you. We need to talk face to face. I'm coming by the house around noon. Please be there." His voice held the practiced contrition of someone who expected forgiveness simply for asking. I deleted the message without responding and continued my inventory of our home, noting with grim satisfaction that Ryan had left behind his laptop in his hasty departure. At precisely noon, the doorbell rang. Through the security camera I'd installed at our front entrance, ironically at Ryan's insistence for our safety, I saw him standing alone, his usual confident posture replaced by a hanged slouch meant to convey remorse. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. "You can say whatever you came to say from right there." Ryan looked terrible, unshaven, wearing wrinkled clothes with dark circles under his eyes. "Good. Steph, please," he began, his voice cracking appropriately. "Last night was, I know how it looked, but it's complicated." "It's been pretty straightforward to me," I replied coldly. "You've been sleeping with my stepsister in our home for 3 months. What part am I missing?" "It was a mistake," he insisted. "A terrible, awful mistake that just happened. Madison was vulnerable. I was trying to help her and things went too far, but it didn't mean anything." I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "It meant enough for you to lie about a business trip. It meant enough for you to risk our entire marriage. Try again, Ryan." He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "I was confused, Steph. With all your focus on your career lately, I was feeling neglected, and Madison was there, and I know it's no excuse. I know I've hurt you unforgivably, but I love you. You're my wife. What we have is real. This thing with Madison was just temporary insanity." The practiced speech might have been convincing if I hadn't seen the tender way he'd looked at Madison the night before, or if I hadn't heard her cavalier admission that their affair had been going on for months. "Where is she now?" I asked. Ryan hesitated. "She's staying with a friend. She feels terrible about everything." "Another lie, does she? That's not the impression I got last night." "She was in shock. We both were," Ryan pleaded. "Can I please come in? It's awkward talking about this on the doorstep." Against my better judgment, I stepped aside to let him enter. He moved immediately toward our living room as if nothing had changed, as if he still belonged there. "I've been thinking all night about how to fix this," he continued, his tone shifting to the practical problem-solver voice he used when discussing finances or home repairs. "I know I've broken your trust, and I know it will take time to rebuild it, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Therapy, complete transparency, whatever you need." "And Madison?" I asked, remaining standing while he sat on our couch. Ryan's expression darkened slightly. "Obviously, she needs to find her own place immediately. I can help her with that if you're not comfortable doing it." "How considerate of you," I remarked, noting how quickly he was willing to discard Madison now that they'd been caught. "And you expect me to believe your affair is over just like that?" "It was a mistake from the beginning," he insisted, "a terrible lapse in judgment that I'll regret for the rest of my life." I studied my husband, this man I thought I knew so completely. His handsome face was arranged in an expression of perfect contrition, his body language submissive and pleading, but his eyes were calculating, assessing my reaction, gauging how much work it would take to win back my trust. "I need time to think," I said finally. "This isn't something I can decide right now." Relief flooded his features. He'd expected outright rejection and was grateful for even this small reprieve. "Of course, take all the time you need. I can stay with a friend for a while, give you space." "Actually," I said, making a split-second decision that would alter the course of everything that followed, "I think it might be better if you stayed here." Ryan's surprise was evident. "Here? You'd be okay with that?" In the guest room, I clarified, I'm not saying I'm ready to forgive you or that we can fix this, but running away from the problem won't solve anything. If there's any chance of rebuilding what we had, we need to face this together. The hope that flickered across Ryan's face almost made me feel guilty for my deception, almost. Stephanie, I don't know what to say. Thank you for even considering giving me another chance. I promise I'll do everything in my power to earn back your trust. I nodded, maintaining a carefully neutral expression. There's something else we need to discuss. I think Madison should come back too. Ryan's mouth actually fell open. What? Why would you want that? Because she's as much a part of this as you are, I explained, watching his reaction closely. Because kicking her out and pretending she doesn't exist won't address the real issues. And because I need to understand exactly what happened between you two if I'm ever going to move past it. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. I'm not sure that's a good idea, Steph. Seeing us together would just cause you more pain. Maybe, I acknowledged, but it's what I need. Call it exposure therapy if you want. I need to see you both, talk to you both if there's any hope of forgiveness. I could almost see the wheels turning in Ryan's head as he weighed his options, refuse and potentially lose me forever, or agree and have to navigate the awkward situation of living with both his wife and his lover under one roof. If that's what you need, he finally conceded, then I'll talk to Madison. I smiled for the first time since discovering their betrayal. Thank you for understanding. After Ryan left to collect his things from wherever he'd spent the night, I called Jessica. He wants to reconcile, I told her, and I told him I'd consider it. What? Jessica's shock was palpable even through the phone. After what he did? Steph, you can't be serious. I'm not, I assured her, but he doesn't know that, neither does Madison. I don't understand. What are you planning? I looked around our home, the home that had once represented everything I'd worked for, everything I'd believed in. I'm planning to get what I deserve, and they are going to get exactly what they deserve too. The next day, both Ryan and Madison moved back in, creating what had to be the most uncomfortable living arrangement imaginable. Madison tried to decline my generous offer, but Ryan had apparently convinced her it was necessary for their long-term happiness. I assigned Madison to the guest room furthest from the master bedroom, while Ryan took the closer one. I remained in our bedroom alone, the mattress replaced with a new one I'd ordered for immediate delivery. That first dinner together was excruciating for all of us, though for very different reasons. I maintained a calm, almost detached demeanor as I served the meal I'd prepared. Ryan was overly solicitous, complimenting the food, offering to clear the dishes, visibly straining to appear remorseful and attentive. Madison alternated between affected contrition and barely concealed resentment, picking at her food and avoiding direct eye contact with either of us. So I said as I poured myself a generous glass of wine, I think we should establish some ground rules for this arrangement. Ryan nodded eagerly. Whatever you think is best, Steph. First, complete honesty from now on, I stated. No more lies, no more secrets. If I ask a question, I expect a truthful answer, no matter how uncomfortable. They both murmured agreement. Second, I need to understand exactly what happened between you two, when it started, how it progressed, all of it. Madison finally looked up from her plate. Is that really necessary? Wouldn't it just hurt you more to know the details? Probably, I admitted, but it's necessary for me to make an informed decision about my future. Ryan shot Madison a warning glance. We'll tell you whatever you want to know. Good, I said, setting down my wine glass. Let's start with a simple question. Are you in love with each other? The silence that followed was deafening. Ryan opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. Stephanie, it wasn't like that. It was physical, a mistake. Ryan, I interrupted. Remember rule number 1, complete honesty. He looked trapped, glancing between Madison and me with growing panic. Madison, surprisingly, was the one who answered. Yes, she said simply, at least I am, I have been for years. The admission hung in the air between us, Ryan's face flushed with anger or embarrassment, possibly both. Years, I repeated, focusing on Madison. Since before I married him? She nodded, a strange defiance in her expression. Since the first time you brought him to meet the family. He was different from your other boyfriends. He saw me, not just as your annoying stepsister but as a person in my own right. I turned to Ryan, who looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. And you, when did you start having feelings for Madison? It wasn't like that, he insisted. Not at first. I loved you, only you. But then Madison moved in, and she was always here, always listening when I talked about work or my interests, things you used to have time for before your career took precedence over everything else. The blame shifting was so predictable I almost laughed. So this is my fault? I was too busy building the life we both wanted, so you naturally had to sleep with my stepsister? That's not what I meant, Ryan backpedaled. I'm just trying to explain how it happened. No, you're trying to justify it, I corrected. There's a difference. The conversation deteriorated from there, with Ryan growing increasingly defensive and Madison retreating into sullen silence. By the end of the evening, the pretense of reconciliation was wearing thin for all of us, as they retreated to their separate rooms. I remained at the dining table, mentally refining the plan that had been taking shape since the moment I'd discovered their betrayal. This awkward living arrangement wasn't about forgiveness or understanding. It was about gathering information, about learning exactly what I was dealing with, and about positioning myself for what would come next, because while Ryan and Madison thought they were working toward eventual forgiveness, I was preparing for something else entirely. Justice. The morning after our first uncomfortable dinner together, Ryan approached me in the kitchen as I prepared for work. He was dressed in his usual business attire, his attempt at normalcy almost laughable under the circumstances. I was thinking, he began hesitantly, maybe we could try couples therapy. I found a few highly recommended therapists who specialize in infidelity. I stirred my coffee thoughtfully. That might be a good idea eventually, but I'm not ready for that yet. I need to process everything on my own terms first. Of course, he agreed quickly. Whatever you need, I just want you to know I'm committed to making this work, to earning back your trust. His earnestness would have been convincing if I hadn't already begun discovering the extent of his deception. The previous night, after both Ryan and Madison had gone to their separate rooms, I'd accessed Ryan's laptop. His password, our wedding anniversary, hadn't changed, a detail that now seemed more insulting than sentimental. What I found confirmed my suspicions that their betrayal went beyond the emotional and physical affair. Hidden among his files were financial records showing a level of debt I hadn't known existed. Credit card statements revealed extravagant purchases for Madison jewelry, designer clothes, even a weekend getaway to Napa disguised as a business expense, all while we were supposedly saving for our future family and dream vacation. I appreciate that, I told Ryan, maintaining the facade of the wounded but potentially forgiving wife. Actually, I've been thinking that we should try to establish some normalcy while we work through this. You know, regular routines, family dinners, that sort of thing. Relief washed over his features. That sounds great. Whatever you think will help. As Ryan left for work, Madison emerged from her room, clearly having waited until he was gone before facing me. Stephanie, she began, her tone conciliatory, I just want to say again how sorry I am for everything. I never meant for this to happen. I regarded my stepsister calmly. Sit down, Madison. Let's talk. She hesitated before taking a seat at our kitchen island, her expression wary. I have a proposition for you, I said, pouring her a cup of coffee as if this were any normal morning conversation. I think we both know the situation isn't sustainable long term. Eventually, decisions will need to be made about who stays and who goes. Madison nodded cautiously. I understand if you want me to leave, I can find somewhere else. That's not what I'm saying, I interrupted. I'm saying that I'm trying to determine what my life looks like moving forward, with or without Ryan, and to do that I need complete clarity about what's been happening in my own home. I took a deliberate sip of my coffee before continuing. I want you to document everything, when the affair started, how it progressed, what Ryan has said about me, about our marriage, about your relationship, everything. Madison's eyes widened. You want me to spy on Ryan for you? I want you to be honest with me, I corrected. Consider it part of your atonement if that makes it easier, but I need to know exactly who I'm married to before I can decide whether this marriage is worth saving. And if I do this, Madison asked carefully, what do I get out of it? I almost smiled at her predictable self-interest, my consideration when the time comes to decide who stays in this house, in this life we've built. Ryan may be telling you everything you want to hear right now, but we both know how quickly men like him change their stories when circumstances shift. I could see her processing my words, weighing her options. Madison had always been calculating, always looking for the path of least resistance to what she wanted. Okay, she agreed finally. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Over the next 2 weeks, I maintained the delicate balance of appearing to consider reconciliation while secretly building my case against both of them. During the day, I consulted with Diana Mitchell, one of the city's most ruthless divorce attorneys, providing her with copies of all the evidence I'd gathered. You've been thorough, Diana commented during our third meeting, reviewing the financial records, text message screenshots, and security camera footage I'd compiled. Most clients come to me with suspicions. You've brought me a complete case. I want to be prepared, I explained. Ryan is well-connected and persuasive. I can't risk being outmaneuvered. Diana's smile was predatory. With what you've given me, he doesn't stand a chance, but there's one more thing we should consider. She outlined a strategy that was bold, potentially risky, but ultimately exactly what I needed. I left her office with a renewed sense of purpose and a clearer timeline for what needed to happen next. At home, I continued my performance as the conflicted wife, allowing Ryan to believe his efforts at reconciliation were making progress. We attended a dinner with his parents, where I played the part of the supportive spouse so convincingly that his mother pulled me aside to express her relief that we were working things out. What Ryan didn't know was that I'd already met privately with his parents the week before, showing them evidence of his affair with Madison and explaining the financial deceptions I'd uncovered. Their shock and disappointment had been genuine, their support for me immediate and unwavering. "We raised him better than this," his father had said, his voice thick with emotion. "Whatever you decide to do, Stephanie, know that we consider you family regardless." Their support was just one piece of the network I was quietly building. I'd spoken with key mutual friends, selective colleagues at Ryan's firm, even our neighbors, not to gossip, but to ensure the narrative wouldn't be controlled by Ryan when everything finally came to light. Meanwhile, Madison was proving surprisingly useful, whether out of guilt or self-preservation. She confirmed that Ryan had been planning to use my connections and partial investment to launch his own financial consulting firm, with Madison as his partner in both business and life once they found the right time to end my marriage. "He said you were too focused on your career to notice what was happening," Madison told me during one of our clandestine conversations, "that you wouldn't even miss him emotionally, just the stability and image he provided." Each revelation should have hurt, but instead, they fueled my determination. The Ryan I had loved never existed. The man who shared my home, my bed, my life for 5 years was a fiction, a carefully constructed facade hiding someone capable of breathtaking betrayal. As my plan progressed, I discovered additional financial misconduct at Ryan's company. He had been skimming from client accounts, small amounts that wouldn't immediately raise red flags but substantial when added together. This discovery was the final piece I needed. 3 weeks after finding them together, I executed the next phase of my plan. I emptied our joint safe of all important documents: our marriage certificate, property deeds, insurance policies, and the original copy of our prenuptial agreement that Ryan had always assumed favored him. I transferred my portion of our joint savings to a new account my attorney had helped me establish. I backed up all digital evidence to secure cloud storage that only I could access. The stage was set. All that remained was the perfect moment to bring everything crashing down around them. That opportunity presented itself when Ryan mentioned his company's anniversary gala, an annual black tie event where the firm's partners, major clients, and their spouses gathered to celebrate another successful year. "I wasn't sure if you'd want to attend," Ryan said cautiously over breakfast, "given everything, but it would mean a lot to me if you did. Show a united front." I smiled, the expression not quite reaching my eyes. "Actually, I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to demonstrate that we're working through our issues. I'd be happy to attend." The relief on his face was palpable. What he didn't know was that I'd already spoken to his firm's managing partner, ostensibly about a real estate matter but using the opportunity to plant seeds of doubt about Ryan's professional conduct. The night of the gala arrived. I spent hours preparing, choosing a form-fitted black dress that projected both elegance and strength. My makeup was flawless, my hair styled in a sophisticated updo. When I emerged from our bedroom, both Ryan and Madison, who was staying home, stared in surprise. "You look incredible," Ryan managed, his expression a mix of appreciation and something else, perhaps a dawning realization of what he stood to lose. "Thank you," I replied simply, accepting the compliment as my due. "Shall we?" During the drive to the hotel where the gala was being held, Ryan attempted small talk, clearly nervous about how the evening would unfold. I responded pleasantly, giving no indication that this night would be anything but the standard corporate function he expected. "I appreciate you doing this," he said as we pulled into the valet area. "I know it can't be easy considering everything." I turned to him, allowing genuine emotion to show for the first time in weeks. "You have no idea what I'm capable of, Ryan, but you're about to find out." He laughed uncomfortably, taking my cryptic statement as a joke. By the time he understood its true meaning, it would be far too late. The ballroom of the Grand Wellington Hotel sparkled with crystal chandeliers and meticulously arranged table settings. Ryan's firm had spared no expense for their 20th anniversary celebration, with ice sculptures, premium open bars, and a live jazz quartet playing softly in the background. Under different circumstances, I might have appreciated the elegance of the event. Tonight, I saw only the perfect stage for the final act of my carefully orchestrated plan. We arrived fashionably late, ensuring a substantial audience was already present. Ryan guided me through the crowd with his hand on the small of my back, a possessive gesture that now made my skin crawl. I smiled and nodded at familiar faces, playing the role of devoted wife one last time. "Ryan, Stephanie, wonderful to see you both," called Martin Coleman, Ryan's direct supervisor and one of the senior partners. "You're looking radiant tonight, Stephanie." "Thank you, Martin," I replied warmly. "It's always a pleasure to see you. And Patricia, how's the new vacation home coming along?" As we fell into easy conversation, I noticed Ryan visibly relaxing beside me. This was going exactly as he'd hoped, his wife charming his colleagues, reinforcing the image of their perfect marriage, his indiscretions safely hidden behind closed doors. If only he knew I'd have already had a private lunch with Patricia Coleman the previous week, sharing just enough about our marital difficulties to ensure tonight's events wouldn't come as a complete shock. We made our way around the room, stopping to chat with various colleagues and clients. With each interaction, Ryan grew more confident, his arm around my waist, his laughter more natural. By the time we reached our assigned table, he was practically glowing with relief. "This is going better than I expected," he whispered as he held my chair. "Everyone's been so welcoming." "Why wouldn't they be?" I asked innocently. "We've always made a good team at these events." Dinner proceeded smoothly through the appetizer and main course. During a brief lull in the conversation, Ryan squeezed my hand under the table. "Thank you for this," he murmured. "It means more than you know." I squeezed back, allowing him this final moment of false security. The night's not over yet. As dessert was being served, Martin Coleman approached the podium for the traditional anniversary speech in recognition of outstanding employees. I excused myself to visit the ladies' room, timing my exit perfectly. In the elegant marble bathroom, I checked my appearance one last time, repleated my lipstick, and took a deep, steadying breath. I removed my phone from my clutch and sent 2 pre-composed messages, one to Diana confirming it was time to execute the legal filings we'd prepared, and another to Jessica, who was waiting nearby with the final piece of evidence I needed to deliver. Jessica met me in the hotel lobby, handing me a sealed envelope. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" she asked, concern evident in her expression. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life," I assured her. "He deserves everything that's coming to him." "Then go get him," she said, embracing me briefly before disappearing back through the hotel's revolving doors. I returned to the ballroom just as Martin was wrapping up his speech. "And finally, before we move on to the awards portion of our evening, does anyone else have anything they'd like to share as we celebrate 20 years of excellence?" Before I could second-guess myself, I raised my hand. Martin spotted me immediately. "Ah, Stephanie Bennett, Ryan's lovely wife, has something to contribute. Please come up." A murmur of surprise rippled through the room as I made my way to the podium. Public speaking had never been Ryan's wife's role at these functions. I could feel his confused gaze following me, sense his growing unease as I took Martin's place at the microphone. "Thank you, Martin," I began, my voice steady and clear. "For those who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Bennett, real estate agent and wife of Ryan Bennett for the past 5 years." I paused, scanning the room of expectant faces. When Ryan asked me to attend tonight's gala, he said it was important that we present a united front, a perfect couple supporting a perfect career at an exemplary firm, and for years, that's exactly what I believed we were. Ryan's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. He half rose from his chair, then thought better of it and sank back down, clearly hoping I would conclude whatever this was quickly and with minimal damage. "Unfortunately," I continued, "I recently discovered that the foundation of our marriage was built on lies, extensive, calculated deceptions that I feel compelled to address not just privately, but here among the colleagues and clients Ryan has potentially harmed through his actions." The room had gone completely silent, all attention focused on me. From the corner of my eye, I could see Ryan motioning frantically for me to stop, his face ashen. 3 weeks ago, I returned home unexpectedly to find my husband in bed with my stepsister, who he had insisted move into our home under the guise of helping family in need. Upon further investigation, I discovered this affair had been ongoing for months, conducted in our home, often while I was working to support the lifestyle we'd built together. Gasps and whispers erupted around the room. I raised a hand, silencing them with a gesture. While devastating on a personal level, I would have kept this matter private had I not also uncovered professional misconduct that I believe this company's leadership and clients deserve to know about. I opened the envelope Jessica had given me, removing several documents with highlighted sections. These records show unauthorized transfers from client accounts to a shell company Ryan established 6 months ago, small amounts carefully disguised as legitimate fees, but totaling over $200,000 to date. Martin Coleman's face had transformed from shock to fury. Several other partners were already on their phones, presumably contacting their legal or compliance departments. Ryan had abandoned all pretense of calm, standing and moving toward the podium with a desperate expression. "Stephanie, stop this right now," he hissed as he reached me. "You have no idea what you're doing." I met his gaze unflinching. "I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm ensuring you experience the consequences of your actions, both personal and professional." Turning back to the stunned audience, I continued, "I've provided copies of these documents to the firm's ethics committee and relevant regulatory authorities. I've also filed for divorce as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, with substantial evidence of financial fraud and marital misconduct." Ryan grabbed my arm, his fingers digging painfully into my skin. "You're making a scene," he growled. "We need to leave now." Before he could drag me away, Martin Coleman appeared beside us, his expression glacial. "Take your hand off her, Ryan. Security is already on their way, and I suggest you cooperate fully." As if on cue, 2 men in dark suits appeared at the ballroom entrance. Martin gestured them over. "Please escort Mr. Bennett to the conference room on the mezzanine level," he instructed. "The firm's legal counsel is on their way to discuss some urgent matters." Ryan's face contorted with rage and panic. "This is ridiculous. Whatever she's told you, it's a misunderstanding. Stephanie, tell them." "There's nothing to tell," I replied calmly. "The evidence speaks for itself." As security led a protesting Ryan away, I addressed the room one final time. "I apologize for disrupting your celebration with such unpleasant business. To those affected by my husband's misconduct, please know that I'm fully cooperating with all investigations to ensure proper restitution." With that, I stepped away from the podium, my legs surprisingly steady as I walked through the silently staring crowd toward the exit. Patricia Coleman intercepted me before I reached the door, embracing me briefly. "That took immense courage," she whispered. "Are you all right?" "I will be," I assured her, "but my night isn't quite over yet." I took a taxi home, where the second act of my plan was about to unfold. Madison was exactly where I expected to find her, in the living room, scrolling through her phone, surrounded by the comfort of my home that she'd so eagerly invaded. She looked up in surprise as I entered. "You're back early. Where's Ryan?" "Currently being questioned about financial fraud by his firm's legal team and possibly the police," I replied casually, setting down my clutch on the entry table. "But that's not your primary concern right now." Madison's expression shifted from confusion to wariness. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I said, retrieving an envelope from my bag, "that while Ryan is dealing with his professional demise, you have your own problems to address." I handed her the envelope, which contained printouts of credit card statements, cards opened in my name without my knowledge, used for extravagant purchases that Madison had somehow convinced Ryan to finance. "Identity theft and credit fraud," I explained as her face drained of color, "not to mention the items from my jewelry collection that mysteriously disappeared after you moved in. The police have been notified about those as well, with photographs and appraisal documents for each piece." Madison stood abruptly, the papers scattering to the floor. "You're bluffing. You wouldn't report your own sister." "Stepsister," I corrected automatically. "And yes, I absolutely would and did. The responding officer should be here shortly. They were quite interested in the evidence I provided, especially the security footage showing you accessing my bedroom when you thought no one was home." As if on cue, flashing lights became visible through the front windows, accompanied by the sound of car doors closing. "You planned all of this," Madison realized, her voice barely audible. "The whole reconciliation charade. You were just setting us up." "I prefer to think of it as ensuring appropriate consequences," I replied as a knock sounded at the door. "Actions have consequences, Madison. It's time you learned that lesson." The next hour passed in a blur of police questions, Madison's increasingly desperate denials, and the systematic dismantling of the life she and Ryan had tried to build at my expense. When the officers finally left with Madison in custody for questioning, I was alone in my house for the first time in months. I moved through each room slowly, reclaiming my space. In the kitchen, I poured myself a glass of the expensive champagne Ryan had been saving for a special occasion. This certainly qualified. My phone buzzed with a text from Diana. "Phase 1 complete. Accounts frozen. Preliminary hearing scheduled. Well done." Another message followed from Jessica. "Just saw the news alert about Ryan's firm. You okay? Need company?" I smiled, appreciating her concern but knowing this moment of solitude was exactly what I needed. All good, enjoying the quiet of my reclaimed home. Brunch tomorrow? Outside I could hear neighborhood dogs barking, a car alarm briefly sounding and silencing, the normal sounds of life continuing despite the complete upheaval of my own. There was comfort in that continuity, in knowing that while my world had been shattered and rebuilt, the universe itself remained steadfast. I took my champagne to the back patio, settling into a lounge chair to watch the stars emerge in the darkening sky. For the first time in months, I felt the tight knot in my chest begin to loosen. The weight of betrayal hadn't disappeared. I suspected it never would completely, but it had transformed into something manageable, something I could carry without being crushed beneath it. My phone buzzed once more. Ryan, calling from what was likely a borrowed phone since his had been confiscated. I declined the call without hesitation and blocked the number. Whatever desperate explanations or accusations he wanted to hurl, I had no interest in hearing them. His words, like his vows, were meaningless now. Instead, I raised my glass in a silent toast to myself and the new life unfolding before me, a life built on my terms, free from deception and betrayal. Ryan and Madison had chosen their path, believing they could use me as a stepping stone to their happiness. Now they would face the consequences of that choice together, though I suspected their united front wouldn't last long under the weight of mutual recrimination. As for me, I had moved them both into the gutter where they belonged, and I had never felt more at peace. 6 months can change everything. As I walk through my home, truly mine now, both legally and emotionally, I barely recognize it as the same space where so much pain occurred. The walls have been repainted in colors I chose, the furniture rearranged to suit my preferences alone. Every trace of Ryan has been methodically removed, from the sports memorabilia he treasured to the pretentious art pieces he insisted complemented our sophisticated aesthetic. The divorce was finalized last month, far more quickly than most thanks to Diana's ruthless efficiency and the mountain of evidence I'd compiled. The prenuptial agreement Ryan had barely read before signing, assuming it protected his assets more than mine, proved instrumental. A clause specifying substantial penalties for infidelity, particularly with a family member, left him with virtually nothing but his personal belongings and a staggering amount of debt. As for Madison, her legal troubles proved more extensive than even I had anticipated. Beyond the identity theft and credit fraud charges, investigators discovered she'd been running similar scams with previous boyfriends and roommates. She's currently serving an 18-month sentence, with our parents finally recognizing the pattern of behavior they'd enabled for years. My relationship with them remains strained but is slowly healing as they acknowledge their role in the dynamics that contributed to this situation. Ryan and Madison's relationship imploded spectacularly in the aftermath of their exposure. According to mutual friends who couldn't resist sharing the gossip, Ryan blamed Madison for ruining his life during a courthouse confrontation, while she accused him of abandoning her when she needed him most. Their great love story, it seems, couldn't withstand the pressure of actual consequences. Professionally, Ryan's career in financial services is effectively over. The investigation into his misconduct revealed even more extensive fraud than I'd initially discovered. Several clients have filed lawsuits, and he's currently working at his uncle's car dealership while fighting potential criminal charges. His once pristine reputation is in tatters, his ambitious plans for his own firm permanently derailed. My own career, meanwhile, has flourished in unexpected ways. The publicity surrounding the scandal initially concerned me. Who would want a real estate agent whose personal life had become tabloid fodder? But Jessica, my steadfast friend through everything, suggested we leverage the situation. "You're the woman who took down a financial fraudster while reclaiming her life," she pointed out. "That's not embarrassing, it's empowering. Clients will trust someone with that kind of integrity and determination." She was right. My business has increased by 30%, with clients specifically requesting the agent who doesn't take crap from anyone. I've even been approached about consulting for a women's financial empowerment workshop, sharing my experience to help others protect themselves from similar situations. My social circle has transformed as well. Some mutual friends faded away, uncomfortable with the messiness of taking sides. Others revealed their true colors by suggesting I should have worked things out or kept it private for everyone's sake. Good riddance to them all. In their place, I've developed deeper connections with people who supported me unwarvingly. Jessica, who spent countless nights on my couch during the worst periods. My neighbor Elaine, who brought meals and distractions when I couldn't bear to cook or be alone. Even Ryan's mother Patricia, who sends holiday cards and occasionally calls to check on me, her loyalty to her son outweighed by her disgust at his actions. The healing process hasn't been linear. There are still days when grief ambushes me, not for Ryan or the marriage I lost, but for the life I thought I had, the future I had planned with such certainty. Therapy has been essential, helping me recognize that trusting someone who proved untrustworthy doesn't make me foolish, it makes him dishonorable. Learning to trust again has been the greatest challenge. My therapist, Dr. Winters, gently reminds me that building walls might feel safer, but they also keep out the good along with the bad. I'm taking small steps, accepting invitations to social events, allowing new people into my life. Even considering dating again, though that still feels distant and theoretical rather than an immediate possibility. The most unexpected outcome of this ordeal has been my newfound relationship with Jessica. What began as workplace friendship has deepened into the kind of sisterhood I never experienced with Madison. Jessica has become my closest confidant, emergency contact, Sunday brunch companion, and the person who knows exactly when to push me out of my comfort zone or when to simply sit beside me in supportive silence. "You're different now," she observed recently as we shared wine on my newly decorated patio. "Stronger, but softer too, if that makes sense." It did make sense. The betrayal had hardened something in me, sharpened my edges and my instincts, but surviving it, reclaiming my life piece by piece, had also taught me compassion for myself most of all, but also for others navigating their own difficult paths. Not for Ryan or Madison, I maintain healthy boundaries around my capacity for forgiveness, but for people genuinely trying their best in an imperfect world. The greatest gift of this painful journey has been the discovery of my own resilience. I now understand that my worth isn't determined by my marriage, my home, or the picture-perfect life I thought I needed. It's found in my capacity to face devastating betrayal and emerge not just intact, but somehow more authentically myself than before. Ryan and Madison thought they were writing the ending to my story when they betrayed me in my own home. They never anticipated that their chapter would be just that, a painful but temporary section in a much longer narrative that I alone control. They underestimated me, assuming my devastation would leave me powerless against their deception. Their mistake was forgetting that even the most well-mannered women have limits to their patience, boundaries to their forgiveness. They pushed me past those limits, and in doing so, unleashed a strength I didn't know I possessed. Sometimes losing what you thought you wanted opens the door to what you actually deserve. And as for Ryan and Madison, well, they made their bed, just not in my house anymore. So if you're watching this and facing your own betrayal, remember your story doesn't end with someone else's poor choices. The most powerful chapters are the ones you write yourself, after the heartbreak, when you rise from the ashes stronger than before. If you've experienced something similar, share your story in the comments below. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in our struggles is the first step toward healing. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life stories of resilience and redemption. And remember, the best revenge isn't just success, it's reclaiming your peace. Thank you for listening to my journey.